introduced Michelle, I actually noticed that you said that you were going through a process of paying off your student loan debt and your credit card debt that you had accumulated over the years.
Yeah.
So what was your process in getting through that?
Yeah, I would say a lot of sacrifice in order to do that. So I mean, just really I think it just sounded. I guess one day I just thought it sounded cool to say that I paid off my student loan debt, so I literally made that my priority, kind of like you. I mean, I cut back on a lot of things, and I just like literally consistently like pretty much like I even cut back a little bit on savings too, just to really pay off that debt, just because that was something I was really focused on. I even part of that time I lived with my mom. In my mid-20s to do it. I made side income, like I was selling things on eBay. Like I just kept trying to find every opportunity. And the interesting thing about your mind is like once you set a goal, there's not to get too deep on it, but there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. So like let's say that you're interested in let's say you want to get a white BMW, right? And then once you make that decision that you want it, you start seeing it all over the place. And it's always been around you, but you just start noticing. So when I had that goal, I just started finding other opportunities and other ways to really, really work and target on that. So that was just a personal goal for myself. But again, I would say, you want to make sure that you're paying off your student loans and all that kind of good stuff. But you also, I think what's more important is make sure you have that savings. You're investing as well, because I mean, typically the interest rates on student loans like 3 to 5%, so it's nothing crazy. I mean, but you want to make sure that you're working towards paying down that debt. So that was kind of my approach.
One, how long did it take you to pay? Now, are you completely out of student loan debt? Yeah. Okay, so how long did it take you, and did your repayment strategy change at a certain point?
When you say repayment strategy?
So some people assume, for example, I got out of my student loan debt in about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was close to 20 grand of student loan debt.
Yeah.
I didn't really change much, except I made 2 payments. One to pay off the minimum payment when the bill first came out. I made a second payment that went against the principal. But I also made another payment, a lump sum payment. So that's what I meant about strategy. If that changed, instead of I'm just going to make one payment that's going to be not the minimum, but I'm going to pay a little extra. But I don't know, what was your strategy?
Yeah, it wasn't consistent. It was literally like every time I got paid, a significant amount would just go towards that. So like some months I would be putting out like $2,000, $3,000. Like every time I came up on some money, I just kept on paying it off. One of the things I did do, which may help some people, is I looked into a program. Not everyone qualifies, but a program called SoFi, or I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
SoFi is that pronounced? So the interest rates are really good on that, and it consolidates everything, and it's like a psychological thing too, right? Because I had student loans from different places. I had these different government loans. I had the unsubsidized, subsidized, and I was going into these different accounts, paying $300 here, $500 there, and I was just like, let me just put everything in one bucket and then just keep chopping it and keep hitting it. So that's kind of my approach.
Nice.
Yeah.
And don't mind me asking Jacqueline, because for all three of us, I think we kind of have different clientele, especially when it comes to the income ranges. Like I think she has a more higher income ranges, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for your clients, you see if they are very ambitious about paying down debt, or they just kind of like, oh, let's pay off the minimum and just keep it going.
That's kind of why they have me. Usually not overly ambitious about it. But like you said earlier, there's like good debt and bad debt. So good debt is debt that really propels your life forward, like your home and your student loan. Bad debt is your credit card debt. So a lot of times my clients will be trying to weigh the trade-off between paying off their student loan debt, which may be at like 3%, or paying off their credit card debt, which may be at 28%. And they're weighing those two odds, but they're also wondering, okay, maybe if I don't pay as much on my student loans, I can take the other money that I have and invest it and make a greater than 3% return on that. So I pay the minimum on my student loans because that's cheap money, and then I invest the rest of the money.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and like I would say too, I would agree with that approach too, because it was like a personal goal of mine, but in retrospect, I mean, that's probably still what I've done anyways. But again, yeah, like you kind of have to do the math in your head. Like there's an opportunity for you to make a greater return somewhere else, then that's probably the better approach.
How do you all feel about rent-to-own homes? Like, what is that? Look at your face.
Yeah, my face. That's my
You're like, nah, not really.
Needless to say, I'm not a fan of it,
Okay, okay.
but I'm just not a fan of it overall.
Okay.
I don't know.
Eager to comment. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my Facebook Live today. Do not do lease to own or rent to own. And the reason why is because you don't own that home. The landlord or the lease to own company still owns that home. So even though you're making a payment and you're buying an interest in the home, you don't actually own that home until such time that you pay off that contract and the deed changes hands. So if for some reason you're not able to keep up with the contract terms, you've spent all this money that's above market anyway for a home that you're not going to ever own. And you can't get that money back. So my suggestion would be just like you said, wait, get your credit and your savings to a point that you can actually afford the home that you can start in. Not the end home, but the starter home. And then from there, build your equity up, build your credit up, and then go to that second home. But as I said, I relocated here from Indiana to Georgia. I had never seen as many lease to own programs in my life.
Great for landlord.
And the reason why, and you're right, it's great for the landlord because the landlord is able to capitalize on our illiteracy. And that's what they're doing. They're capitalizing on our illiteracy. So if you can afford to pay $1,200 to $1,400 on a rent to own, you can afford to do the same in your own home and you own it. This just may take a little bit of time for you to get there.
Real good.
Don't do it.
If I could add to that, I did a rent to own for a tenant. I didn't feel as though it was fair to the tenant. I made a bunch of money off of them. For example, I charged them $1,350, but I made it where they had to do all the repairs. So anything break, that's theirs. But they only had to pay $1,350. They couldn't get the credit score they needed to purchase, so year after year, I just kept making money after money with no repairs, being all their responsibility. But I didn't want to be the homeowner of that because it was in the subdivision where I live at. So now I got neighbors in the subdivision getting on my nerves about the tenants for anything. So to give you a quick example, I had a tenant who had a son who kept trying to talk to this guy's wife. So the guy kept calling me, well, that's your house, you know. I'm like, dude, that's 911.
Right.
Like, that's 911. Or put on some boxing gloves and go handle it. Why is you calling me? I'm busy. So fast forward, I just went on and sold the house because, again, I don't recommend buying a house that's in the same subdivision as you.
Right.
With that being said, it's not one size fit all. In her case, $1,350 was way below the market rent. It was 4-bedroom, 2-car garage at $1,350. Rent to own is cheaper than leasing. So it's not one size fit all. So when you sit down and look at the numbers, numbers don't lie. I'm a real estate guru. This is what I do since 1996. I know in and out. I could buy without even looking at the properties. I bought so many properties without even looking at them. I just look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
Did she have, like, you know, her credit was good or something?
Good question.
You feel me? That's why you lease
The weirdest thing in the world, and don't quote me on this, but say her credit score was like 600. She only needed 650. She could never get down 50 points. She paid me before she paid anything. And every lender was like, Mr. Archer, the oddest thing is she pays you, but if she stopped paying you, she get her credit up. But she kept paying me first. And she was happy. She's like, I don't want to move. I'm like, yeah, but the neighbors keep complaining. I'm tired of, put your son out or something. Well, tell her to stop cutting the grass with booty shorts on. Oh. Now it's like, was this $1,350 really worth it? So again, the moral of the story is, it's not one size fit all. It depends on the numbers, because lease to purchase could be great, or maybe it's not. So you got to look at your numbers and look at your numbers carefully and read. Reading. In Islam, we call it Iqra, which is Arabic. Read all that. Don't let nobody read it for you. When you can't understand it, go to Google now. Back then I had to go to the library. Read all them terms. And if it's not what it says, don't let them tell you it's something else. Just read it. Take your time and read it. You don't understand it? Take a break. Come back 7 days later and read it again. Most of the time, realtors don't even know what they're reading. And I'm not even a realtor. I'm just an investor. I know more than them. Hands down. So, I'll leave it there.
Kind of circling back to the student loans and the debt and all of that, you mentioned consolidation with SoFi. So the most important thing that I mention to people before they say, oh, I'm just going to consolidate all my loans because instead of paying 3 payments, I'm just going to pay 1. Well, when you consolidate those federal loans, those subsidized and unsubsidized loans, you lose any of the federal repayment abilities that you have. So, you know, when we talk about paying back your student loans and they're like, oh, we'll do an income-based repayment, and we can do this and we can do that. Well, you lose all of that when you roll it all into one and you go over to SoFi. You no longer, if you hit a hard time and you're like, oh, I got to do an income-based repayment, you're gonna have to convince SoFi to do that, and that's not gonna be so easy. They may not let you do that, and they must say, well, you owe us $800 a month, you're only paying us $300, so you know you're gonna end up defaulting. So that's just something to be mindful of when you talk about consolidating, because you'll lose those benefits.
So I actually will open the floor up to other questions. Did you guys want to add anything else before I do that though? Okay. So if you have any questions.